Good afternoon. My name is Itzik Manti. I'm going to talk today about phishing and account takeover attacks. First, I want to thank you for staying that late. This is the closing session of the conference, so I appreciate that. A couple of words about myself. So I am a director of security research at Imperva. I'm leading a group of researchers in data security. I have 18 years of experience in various security industries, where I did security design, security analysis, and in general innovation and problem solving in all kinds of security-related problems. I have a master degree in the math and computer science. I did that with Professor Adi Shamir, who is the S of RSA. Together we researched the security of the cipher RC4, which was developed by Ron Rivest for MIT, which is the R of RSA. So I came from the world of cryptography. I'm also an ultra marathoner. This picture I run with 61-kilometer trail running. Part of it, my son joined me. I took this picture. And this is my LinkedIn profile. In the research that I'm going to present, we took a fish the fishers approach. We wanted to understand better how account takeover attacks are working and how they are done. So we did to the phishing attackers what they do to their victims. We lured them into our environment and we traced their activity there. And this is the research that we did. And we'll share with you the result of this research. So, this research is detailed in a report that we released. It is called the Beyond Takeover, Stories from a Hacked Account. If this session is interesting for you, I really encourage you to go and look for this research or approach me, and I will provide a link to it with all the details of this research. Led this research was Luda Lazar, a cyber threat researcher from my group. In addition, we joined the effort with students from the Israel Technion, Israel Institute of Technology, students Tamar Gatas and Joanna Yakub, which also participated in this research. In addition, we used very intensively a framework that is called Canary Tokens that was provided by Thingsta Applied Research. I'll talk about that later. I will start with phishing and account takeover. So for the recent Verizon report on the data breaches, it turns out that 43% of the breaches involved social attacks. And social attacks are usually associated with phishing. And as you can see in the red arrow, the trend is that it goes up, meaning that phishing and social attacks are a real threat and growing. Some additional statistics from this report. So 80% of the financially motivated breaches involve phishing. And this diagram that you see is the click rate. What is the chances of employees for organizations of different verticals, of different domains, to click on a phishing link. And once they click, that there is a high chance that they will follow the link and fall into the phishing trap. So what comes after phishing? After phishing, the attacker gets credentials, and then he does what we call an account takeover. He can do this for several reasons. One of them is fraud. You want to do identity theft. This is one threat. Another attack is to hijack your bank account and to do fraudulent transactions. Other motivations for the attackers is to steal secret data, either from your mail account or maybe to use the phishing and credentials theft in order to put a foothold within your organization and start moving on there to the business data of your organization. So espionage is one objective, stealing contacts, using them for further attacks. There is also, and we saw several indications for that, account abuse, using your account as part of the attacker infrastructure, and then you will be used for spamming, for phishing, for distribution of malware, and sometimes even using social networks to promote a site or person or idea. So how does phishing work? So usually it starts with a phishing mail. The phishing mail will be sent to a large number of recipients. If you press this link, you will get into a fake website. This fake website will probably resemble or look exactly like a website that you are familiar with, either your bank account or your mail account or anything like that. And and in this website, you will be asked to put your credentials or any other sensitive information that the attacker wants. It can be, for example, your mother maiden name, if this is the detail that is missing for him to get into your bank account. But usually it will be the username and password for your account. This link can be also lead you to a malware download. And from that point on, the attacker will have his foothold in your desktop and control your everything that you are doing. And of course, there are variations of this flow. So how does the phishing ecosystem look like? So while in the past, in the early days of phishing, in the early days of phishing, the attackers needed to do everything by themselves. They had to generate the clone site, they had to build the infrastructure to harvest and to collect the credentials, and they had to maintain them. Today, this is not the case. Today, there are do-it-yourself kits. You just download the kit, and then you can, with a couple of links, you are getting a clone of your favorite target site. And there are even more than that. There is what we call a phishing as a service. You can pay for a very reasonable amount, like a couple of dollars per month, and you have a phishing campaign ongoing, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to clone the site. You don't have to build infrastructure. Everything is collected, and you only get all the credentials that were harvested to your mail. But regardless of how the phishing works, then eventually the account takeover has the same objectives and same motivations. In our research, we wanted to understand better the dynamics of account takeover attack. In particular, its relation with data breaches when they come into the organizations. We also wanted to understand better what attackers, to try to put ourselves in the shoe of the attacker and understand how they work, what is more attractive for them, what are their methods, and what are their practices. And this is the thing that I will share with you. So the first part of the research was setup and maintenance. What we did, we generated 90 dummy accounts in different services that are known to be very popular phishing targets. And we put an infrastructure, a framework for monitoring the activity within the accounts. I will talk in details about how we did that. Then, instead of waiting for the attackers to come in, we invited them in. We leaked the credentials, the usernames and password of these accounts into live phishing campaigns. And eventually we took the data that came out from this research. This is a long-term research. It took us 9 months from the moment that we started until we finished that. And we analyzed this data to try to see the trends in the behavior of attackers. So I'll start with explaining in detail about the research process. So our bait network included 60 email accounts that were, as I said, in popular mail services that are popular with phishing attackers. So we used, of course, Gmail and Outlook, Yandex, and except for that, we generated several dummy identities, which each one of them had several accounts. both a mail account, but also accounts in social networks and in the file hosting services. The idea of that is we wanted to see also the propagation between one account and the other, in particular around the notion of password reuse. Everybody knows that users reuse passwords. It is very hard to remember to generate a large number of passwords. And we were interested to see if we see attackers taking a password from one account and trying to use it to propagate to another account of this same person. And for that, we used these groups of accounts. In order to make the account look authentic, we of course didn't leave them empty. We filled them with a lot of mails in the inbox, in the sent items. We generated folders that look suspicious, or more accurately, to look more attractive, like passwords and credit cards and things that resemble things that we believe that attackers are after. We generated, we put our email addresses in various news groups and websites, and of course the spam it didn't take long until we were bombed with a lot of spam, like every normal email account. For the social networks, we generated connections between our accounts and themselves, and of course we got a lot of friend requests from others, and I think some of the profiles that we generated have more Facebook friends than I do. Also in the file hosting services, we put a lot of files, and again, as we did in the mail accounts, we put there files that look very appealing, very interesting, with special names and interesting content. For the account monitoring, we wanted to monitor two things. The first one is the penetration into an account. We wanted to see attackers logging in. And the second, we wanted to track the data access patterns within the account. So for the first part, we mostly used a service that is provided by most of the mail services today, which is where at the moment they are seeing login that comes from something new device, new browser, new application, new geo. They will send you an email asking you whether this is a correct one. Of course, we answered yes, it is us, even though it was not us. But this gave us an indication of logins by the attackers. Other places, there are archives that you can download from some of the services, and there is a recent activity page that you can look at, all of this having this information of when and how login occurred. For the activity within the account, we use the canary tokens framework. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this framework. I will present it in a couple of minutes, but it is a very nice framework that allows you to build documents and links. And whenever someone opens this document or presses on this link, then you will get notification to the email account that you specified in advance. So this system is called the canary tokens. As I said, it is by Things that applies the research, and it's just a framework for generating decoys. The type of these decoys, the type that we used in our research, the first one was URLs, called web bugs in their terminology. When we get an alert every time someone enters this, try to access this, send an HTTP request to this URL. The second is Microsoft Word document. That no attacker will ignore a Microsoft Word document that look interesting for him. And the third one was zip folders, archives, that whenever someone opens this zip in the File Explorer and starts to browse between the folders, then we are getting the alert. So these are the three types of decoys that we used. We'll show a short. This is how it looks. So you choose the type, which is webbug URL. You put your email address, and you put also a label that will assist you later to associate the alert that you are seeing. And now you have this link, and this is the link that is ready to use. You can now put it in every place you want, like, for example, in our case, in the mail. If you press this link, if someone presses this link, you will get this forbidden access, which is quite natural. This is something that will not raise as suspicious. And a couple of seconds later, okay, you will get an email, and in this email, this is the alert. You can see the timestamp, when it happened, what happened, which you see, of course, the label of the link that was generated, and of course you get information about the place where the user agent and the IP from which this link was pressed, and this is the information that we used in this research. Okay, so that's it for building the setup, building the account, and building the monitoring framework, and the network of sensors. Next, we needed we are ready to see the attackers, to have them in. For that, we used two open source, two public feeds of phishing campaigns. Usually, the way these are used is as blacklist that clients or application security providers can use in order to prevent users from getting into these sites. But of course, in this case, we did exactly the other way around. We took active campaigns. We took the most fresh ones only that every day we took those that were released, added to the blacklist today. And we went to these pages and we entered the credentials of our accounts. And then we actually invited the attackers in, and we waited to see when and how they will come in. One of the most significant challenge in this process was the maintenance of this large number of accounts. It was very hard to maintain them. It took a lot of effort. Due to this reason, we wanted to reuse accounts. So the way we worked, we did a round of leaking the credentials to different phishing pages. And then we waited to see if attackers come in. Sometimes they came in, sometimes not. So after a period of usually about 2 weeks or more than that, we just reset the entire process. We changed the password, we refreshed the content, and we started a new leakage round. This time we could use every account more than once. Next, we'll talk about, I will present the results of what we saw after the attackers got into the account. So the first statistics, the first number, out of 200 leakages that we did, only 44%, which is 88 cases, we actually saw attackers getting in. Now, it is possible that some of the phishing pages that we visited and we leaked to were already down, but we still believe that this number is not far from reality, which means that 1 out of 2 leakages eventually lead to account takeover. From these 44%, we saw that we wanted to see how many of them are accessed once and how many of them are accessed more than once. And we saw that 2/3 of them were accessed only once, and 1/3 were accessed more than once, which is about 30 accounts and 99 access events. And when we looked at access to data, we had 2 kinds of sensors. There was the login sensors and the data access sensors. As for the data access sensors, we saw, interestingly, that in 77% of the accounts, we didn't see even a single data access. And only in 23% we saw actually data access within the account, which means that in many of the cases, and now the blue part in the top circle has a very strong correlation with the blue part in the bottom one, because whenever there was single access, whenever we saw data access, and this data access came from accounts that were accessed several times. There are several possible explanations for this. One of them is that attackers, when they got the credentials, they went into the account. They just wanted to validate that it is possible to use these credentials, that they are correct. And from that point on, they took them and put them in a database for trading as validated stolen credentials, as opposed to invalidated stolen credentials, which probably cost less. We saw also that 61% of the canary tokens of the data access that we've seen came not in the first access to this account, but in further accesses. And again, interesting observation that whenever we saw several accesses, we saw them from different IPs. In most of the cases, we didn't see them from the same IP being accessed over and over, which can probably stem from using a Tor or other anonymous network. Next, we wanted to see how much time it takes from the moment we leak the credentials until the account is actually hacked. So in this diagram, the 100%, the entire population, is all the accounts that were actually hacked. And you can see that from these, in the first 24 hours, 46% of the accounts were hacked. And after 2 weeks, the chances of getting hacked, of course, is continually decreasing. And what stems from here is that if you take these two observations, the first one is that 56% of the credentials are actually not used. Nobody uses them for hacking. And 54% of the exploitations, when they do happen, they happen after more than 24 hours. So if you multiply these two factors, then what you're getting is that if you can detect in time the fact that you put your credentials in the wrong place, you have about 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5 chances that you can change your password within 24 hours, and then you can save yourself from being your account from being hacked. So this is something that was, at least to some extent, surprising for us, and an interesting observation. Next, we wanted to look about how much time attackers spend within the account. So this is the distribution. You can see that the average is about 10 minutes from the login to and the last data access alert that we've seen. Most of them, 97%, are less than half an hour. There was one that was 52 minutes, but it was really exceptional. Next, we wanted to understand whether attackers use the password reuse practices of users. So, as I said, we had a group of accounts in different services, and we leaked the lead account, the mail account that was used to access all the other services. And all the accounts within this group had the same username, which was the mail address, and the same password. And then we waited to see if attackers will come. So we waited and waited. And anyone want to guess what is the percentage of password reuse that we've seen? How many people think it is less than 50%? Okay. How many think it is more than 50%? Okay. So actually, if you would ask me before making this research, I would definitely say it is more than 50%, probably 70 or 80. But the number that we've seen was actually 16% only, which was very surprising for us because it looks like the most obvious thing to do. But from our experiment, and I know this experiment is limited and sometimes it is biased for different reasons, but it was very clear that this is a much less than that, so it was very surprising. So I'm not encouraging anyone to reuse password. This is a bad practice and should be avoided because 16% is still significant enough to make you not use this practice, but still this number is surprisingly low. Okay, so we'll continue and look at what attackers are doing within the account. Here we have another demo. Okay, so what you see here is an attacker looking at and getting into the account. So they look at the inbox, they look at the different folders, especially those that are more appealing with the good names like credit cards and things like that. They look at the sent mail. This is something that we saw quite many attackers, and they propagate from the, since they have your Gmail account, they will go to your Google Drive and have a look about on the files that you have there, which also include a lot of data. So when we try to, we took all the data access that we've seen, and we try to get to figure out some statistics about which type of data is more interesting for attackers than others. So we definitely saw that anything that is related to password that can allow the attacker to propagate to other accounts was first access. This is the first thing. So most of the data access that we've seen came on the base of this type. Second was credit cards, which is also very valuable, and about 10% each for contact list and for suppliers and customers, which we try to resemble something that look like something that the attacker can use as to attack the business in some sense. Some of the passwords were for personal accounts. Some of them we try to make them to resemble enterprise accounts. So eventually, if you take this and sum this up, then you get about a 3-to-1 relation between access to personal data and access to business data. When it comes to where the attacker looks, so all the attackers look at the inbox, of course, but significant portion of the attacks look also at the sent items, which actually make a lot of sense. It was very surprising. Actually, we expect that this will happen. This is why we put in the sent items part of our base, because the inbox of everyone is full with spam. It's very hard to understand from there what really this user is up to. If you look at your sent items folder, then it is easier to understand what is interesting. What does this user? What did he do in the last week or the last month, and start exploring his account. 12% of the attackers moved from the Gmail to the Google Drive folder and looked for data there. Regarding the effectiveness of the different traps, as I said, we had 3 types of traps. We have the URLs, we had the MS Word documents, and we had folders. And we saw that 68% of the traps that were stepped on were webhooks, were URLs. 25% were Word documents, and only 7% were zip archives. You can start to deduce from here, you can think about what can be the reason for that. So it might be that attackers are more cautious regarding Word documents, but at least my conclusion from this research is that the attackers, they want to get into the account and to, as fast as possible, to scan it, to look to see if there is anything interesting, and if not, to proceed to the next account. So just if you see a URL, you press it, and you have in 5 seconds you can figure out whether this is something interesting or not. If this is a Word document, it will take some time until it downloads, until it opens. If it is a zip archive, the same. Then I think the reason for this statistics is really that they really want to do the scanning as fast as possible. They have a lot of accounts. They want to scan them fast. They want to get to the next account. And this is the reason for this statistic. But each one of you can take this to find the other alternative explanation. Another thing that we've seen is account abuse. In 12% of the cases, we saw actually attackers taking these accounts that we leaked and using it to mount another attacks. So in 11 cases, it was we joined a spamming botnet. Some of them were spreading a phishing campaign. Others were part of inheritance scams, telling you the people that you inherited some money and you need to use their bank account, and they will give you some portion from this money for that. Yes. There is still this thing is still going on. It is not. It didn't disappear. We also saw anecdotal other things like malware delivery that we saw once, and when we saw one account being hacked, and afterwards we seen in the other accounts that were in his contact list, we saw them getting spam from this account. And we concluded that the attackers, they take the contact list of the users, of the accounts, and they use them to continue and find valid targets for further phishing campaigns. We had one case that was very interesting. We expected to see more than that, which was a full account takeover. So at the beginning, about 5 p.m., the attacker did his login. And about an hour and a half later, he changed the recovery mail. And immediately then, he changed the password. And instead of trying to stay slow and low, he took charge of our account. And it took him further 15 minutes to think that we might try to brute force his account. And he added a two-step verification and added his phone number. And we lost control of this account. Another question that was very interesting for us to try to understand is whether when attackers go and investigate the account, the content of the account, are they doing this manually or are they using automated tools? So several indications that we've seen. First, we've seen very, very selective data access. It's not like someone took all the data access baits that we put, but only those that looked more interesting. We also seen that the access was discontinued. We didn't see like a batch of 50 data access triggers within 1 minute, but we saw one, and a couple of minutes later another one. One of the models that we wanted to understand whether attackers are using or not is whether they are using automation to download all the content to their desktop and then to investigate it there. In this case, we would expect that we'll see that from the login, we will see it will take a lot of time until we start to see the data access patterns, the data access triggers, but we didn't see that. Actually, what we saw is that almost immediately after in the first 3 minutes after the login, we saw the first data access, and we conclude from that this possibility of users of attackers downloading the entire content of the mailbox to their desktop and investigating there, this is not what really happening. So our conclusion is that definitely manual labor. This is what they do. We didn't see any indication of any automated work there. Next, we'll see what the attackers are doing to cover their tracks. So the attacker here, you can see that there is a mail coming from Google saying that the new sign in from a new device. This is something that many attackers found and erased without a lot of thinking. Some of them, quite few, I think actually it was one, that also deleted it from the trash folder. So this is, attackers they try to cover the traces, but not to the end of it. Sometimes they mark messages that they read that were marked before that as unread. So they mark them again as unread to eliminate the suspicious of the account owner. If he gets to the account and he sees that something that he didn't read looks like that. And when they use the account for spamming, they delete. In some cases, we saw them deleting from the sent items folder all the mails that they sent from this account. So there are many things that we saw attackers do. but we were somehow disappointed to see that they didn't do this very often. So only 17% of the attackers really covered their threats. So it was much less than 1 out of 6. It is not that much. 15% deleted the sign-in alerts from the inbox. 13% deleted the sent mails and failure notice messages when they did further spamming from our account. Only 3% marked the messages as unread, and only 2%, which is, I think, a single or maybe 2 attackers, really eliminated all the evidence from the account, including from the trash. What you can conclude from this, 2 things: either that the attackers are careless, or they just don't care. They have so many accounts, so they don't care if they get caught. They don't care if you block them, if you change your password, because they have so many other accounts that they need to look into, that they don't want to spend the time and the effort required to eliminate their traces. Next, we try to do a small exercise and try to trace where the source or the attackers, where they're coming from. So we did, of course, a geo-distribution of the IPs. So from 187 logins that we've seen from 167 IP addresses, which were distributed among 18 countries. But this number of 18, I think, it might be misleading, and I will tell you why in a second. We were expecting to see vast majority of these accesses coming from anonymous, somewhat that they hide their IPs, either coming from Tor or from anonymous networks, or even from Amazon or other hosting service that attackers will do this from IPs that they don't care to get blacklisted, because this is not them. But again, we were very disappointed to see that only 39% of the access were actually from these kind of IPs, which is very low. So more than half of the accesses were done from IPs that might actually belong to the attacker. So the geo-distribution was, this is the leading 3 countries. So you can see that Nigeria and the United States are leading with 34% for Nigeria. A well-known, unfortunately, source for phishing campaigns, and 42% from the United States. However, this picture is misleading because this includes all the anonymous frameworks. So if you remove from these all the access from Tor or from other anonymous proxy networks or from hosting services, then you get different pictures where the portion of Nigeria grows to 55%, and of the United States decreases to 22%, which means that majority of the activity that we've seen came from Nigeria. For the other countries, like you see here, South Africa, I'm even not sure, because the lists that we're using of IP addresses and Tor and anonymous proxies, these lists are very dynamic. So it is possible that when you see 2 accesses, it might be just a mistake because we didn't map the IP correctly. So I think the only thing that you can take from this slide is the United States and then Nigeria. Next, I will tell one of the stories that interesting stories that we've seen within the account. So we saw something that looked to us as a spear phishing attack, not on a person, but on organization. This organization was one of the world's largest telecommunication operators. And the story began when we got one of our accounts, Natalie. She got an email from Yahoo saying that there was suspicious activity from her account and she should look for it. So, of course, we started looking at it. So we didn't find anything interesting in the inbox. We didn't find anything interesting in the sent items. However, since we already knew that attackers sometimes forget to look at the trash folder, we went to the trash. And there we found several very, very strong evidence. We saw failure notification, mail sending failure notification that came from a mail provider saying that that mail came back, that it wasn't accepted, which is a strong evidence of spam being sent from our account. And we continue to analyze this, the content of this account. And what we've seen there is, oops, I'm sorry. And what we've seen there, we saw this a lot of message failure and notification. And we found in the many messages that were sent from our account, they were in the deleted in the trash folder, that were each one of them had 10 recipients. I'm sorry, each one of them had 50 recipients from from this organization that was the target of this attack. Well, where one of the recipients was common to all the messages, and we saw 10 messages. So eventually it was 500 recipients, 490 that were different recipients, and one of them that repeated 10 times, which we assumed that this is probably the account of the attacker himself, because he's sending the messages and he wanted to keep some level of control of management for them. So we took his mail address, this Pedro something at Yahoo, and we tried to trace him, and actually it was not very hard. With social networks and Facebook, we got to his Facebook account, and we were not very surprised to see that he lives in Lagos, in Nigeria, and he was born there, and a lot of personal information about him. So again, it was quite disappointing to see that the attackers not always take even the minimal measures to keep safe. Okay, so that's about it. So we'll summarize what we've seen. So had a lot of numbers. Only 44% of the credentials that were leaked were eventually translated into actual account takeover. Again, it was like fairly low. Even when there is account takeover, in only 46% it happened in the first 24 hours after the leakage. 23% of attackers looked for data inside the honey accounts that we've leaked. Only 60% of the attackers reused the credentials, trying to propagate to other accounts of this user. 12% of the account hijacking where the attackers abused our accounts to launch further attacks on other accounts. And in 0% of the cases, we found the indication of any automation of that the attackers used. So what are the conclusions? First, I think and foremost, so the phishing threat is a very, very old threat. And there are a lot of research around it, but news, it is here to stay. It turns out to be very, very effective. The attackers have so many credentials, and the indication is that they're doing the analysis manually, so the attackers even don't get to use all the credentials that they put in their hands on. Maybe in the future when they'll start using automation or maybe even AI technology to investigate the data within the inbox, the phishing will become even more effective than it is today. Quick detection and mitigation of credential theft, for example, by changing the password, can reduce the account hacking probability by 54%, which is significant. It turns out that attackers are sometimes as sloppy as their victims, or they don't care being identified, which is also can also be the case. And the password reuse is much less reused by attackers than what is commonly believed. And the fact that phishing is still active probably is because users are human, and human is human. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses. Users will continue to falling into social engineering and to give the attackers the road in. And they continue to be the weakest link and probably the most unpredictable link in the organization. And we've seen the same also for the red side, for the dark side, for the attackers. They fell into our phishing scams quite easily. They left clear tracks in most of the accounts, and they were sloppy and left hints for gave us the opportunity even to get their real identity. And I even add more than that, it's not only the blue and the red. When it comes to cyber experts or cyber vendors, we just, about a month ago, we had a hack the analyst case where hackers took over the account of a security analyst from a large vendor. I redacted it because in the next time it can be Imperva or me. And just last week we saw another large cyber vendor, antivirus company, that had a supply chain attack where attackers replaced added backdoor to the download server of this company. So nobody is immune, nobody is safe. Everybody can be sloppy. The users, the attackers, and even the cyber community. So I'll finish with what I think are the takeaways for a security officer from this research. So first, password reuse may provide the attacker's bridge to your network, which is something that we knew. It is not as strong as we expected, but it is there. I mean, if the users use the same password for the Gmail and for their organization, and they give their Gmail password away to phishing, then this can be used to give the attacker the foothold in the organization. Attackers are looking for data, which is, again, not very surprising. And phishing happens so often that you should assume that at any point of time, some of the users in the organization are being hacked, or credentials are in the wild. Definitely if your organization is more than several dozen employees. So when it comes to application security, phishing detection is effective, meaning that if you have the detection mechanism that once a user is leaking his account credentials to the wrong place, you can see that. And this sometimes can be done by looking at the referrer header of a request coming to the application. Then it can be effective. And second, you should deploy account takeover protection to protect the accounts of your users. When it comes to enterprise network and data security, so you should assume that the perimeter is breached. As I said, attackers are finding their way in, for example, and this is one of the vectors to do that. And it means that if you want to protect the data, you need to protect your critical data, also not at the perimeter, but close to the data store as possible. That's it. Questions?
I have a few questions. Did you contact Gmail, Facebook for additional data on what the attackers did inside, or did you notify them that any of this?
I'll repeat the question. The question was whether we contacted Gmail or other vendors to get further information about the accounts. No, we hadn't. But, this is a good point. Maybe we should.
Do you know what they did with the non-credential data they found inside those email accounts versus credit card?
Can you repeat the question?
Do you know what the attackers did with the non-credential data they found inside the accounts, like credit card information or phone numbers?
No. Well, when it was contact list, and at least in a couple of cases we saw this contact list being used for to get a spam. When it was credit card numbers, then we don't really know. Other questions? Okay, thank you very much for your attention.